Hello, welcome everyone to today's webinar. Today is November 3rd, 2022. We have a very special online webinar today with our Fredrik Poleszynski, and he's the creator of the Deep Cycle programs. So before we start, we just have to fill the housekeeping items to let everybody know that today's webinar will actually be translated simultaneously in French, Spanish, Mandarin, Japanese, and Korean. So in case you cannot find the interpretation button, if you have a desktop, you can see that at the bottom of your screen. If you're on your cell phone, it's going to be hidden on the right-hand side at the bottom with 3 dots. You need to click that, and then also you'll be able to see the translation function interpretation to choose the language. We hope everybody can enjoy today's webinar in your language of choice. And also, before we start, all the information that we provide today is only for information and for educational purposes only. And due to legal reasons, we will not be able to discuss anything related to diseases or any diagnosis. If you need any medical advice, we advise that you speak to a qualified professional for the advice. And for today, I'm very honored to be able to host today's webinar with Jan, and we'll be covering a lot of topics today. And of course, everybody wants to explore, to have a deep dive into the Deep Cycle harmonics programs. I believe this is the first time that Jan will be covering the entire 12 programs of the Deep Cycle harmonics. It might be also the last time that he was just mentioning about. And before we go into the Deep Cycle programs, we think that it is very important for everyone to understand the basics or the foundations of how frequencies or how electromagnetism works for how it affects our body and our health. So Jan has put together a very condensed version of the electromagnetism seminar for us to begin with. And so before I introduce Jan to join us on the floor, we'd like to read a little bit about Jan's background. Jan, of course, as we all know, he's the creator of the original Deep Cycle and the Deep Cycle harmonics programs. He's the founder and CEO of Uno Vita, the Clinic of Integrative Medicine in Norway. As a practitioner and a teacher, Jan focused on electromedicine and integrative medicine since 2008, with extensive research and development of new health concepts and electromagnetic frequency systems. He has a very close working relationship with Dr. Nina, the creator of the Gold frequencies, and since their meeting with Marcus, they have both contributed to the development of the frequency system at Time Waver. 20 years ago, before establishing himself in the health and wellness industry, Jan was working as an IT professional and an innovator in the industry. He has mostly self-taught. His main competence within the field of health comes from 14 years of private studies of electromagnetism, quantum physics, biology, bioelectricity, and medicine in a broad perspective. For example, like natural medicine, alternative medicine, nutrition, and general medicine and related. So after many years of running a home-based practice, he formally established the Clinic for Integrative Medicine in Oslo, Norway in 2019. And the clinic has provided him with valuable clinical experiences and a holistic understanding of health and diseases. So nature is the religion for Jan, and we are looking very forward to and very excited for Jan to share with us his knowledge and wisdom on today's webinar. So welcome, Jan, to today's webinar. I'll pass the floor to you for you to share your knowledge and wisdom with us, and I'll be back to join you on later with the Q&A for everyone. Hello, Jan.
Hello, thank you very much for this very nice introduction. Welcome today for everybody all over the world. Some has it's morning, it's day, it's evening. Some people even have night. So it's interesting to meet you in this, let's say, multi-time zone, real-time experience. Yes, I just want to correct a small thing you said, Simon. And thank you very much, Simon, and your team and the translators for doing this great job and putting all these beautiful people together. So thank you. I opened the clinic in Oslo in 2010, so not 19. So it's been 12 years of the clinic, and started, as you said, treating people in 2008 based on electromagnetic principles. So, as you understand, electromagnetism is a little bit my baby, and I want to explain you why. So let's just jump right at it. Okay, so I say the secrets of electromagnetism, light and your invisible reality, because this is good coverage, because everything around you is electromagnetic, and I will explain this much more in detail. So first, a little jump to my religion. I have searched since I was a small boy to understand why are we here, what is the universe, how does the body work, where do we come from, where are we going? Nobody could tell me. So after many, many years, I discovered that I could understand a lot about nature if I understood the electromagnetic properties of nature and some quantum physics. But my advice to you, and I'm not going to go deep into this principle or my belief system, which I call nature is my religion, because it's all compiled in a PDF and it will be shared to you. So I urge you to read it because, yes, it's a little philosophical, but it also represents a clear view of my understanding of my research and my whole life experience on how things work. And also, I think it's important to comprehend that we are beings from nature. We are beings from nature just as all the other animals, plants, everything on this earth. And health is being natural. You find health in nature. So the reason, or a main reason, that so many people today struggle with health issues is because we are not living a natural life. So if you go outside and you go to the sea, and you can see this picture, this was one night we spent outside sleeping in summer, just some kilometers away from where I live. When you go to the sea, you get the light from the sun, you get the air full of negative ions, which is actually charging you, and you get the contact with the ground, which charge you and synchronize you with nature. When you touch a tree, you are being charged and synchronized with nature. So you find your health in nature. I urge you to think about this. For everything we do in technology, it's merely a primitive imitation of what we do in nature. So if you go out in a pure nature, go into a mountainside, and there comes water out of the mountain, which is pure from the inside of the mountain, it's the best water you can get. So what do we want to do at home? We want to try to mimic and produce the similar water to bring nature into our environment. Okay, so I think this more or less what I'm going to say about this, because it correlates with the next levels. And there are some scientific consensus, or let's say scientific agreements, what we do know, because mostly we don't know. The truth is we know very, very little. And the less you know, or the less you think you know, the probably more you do know. Because the universe and nature is incredibly extensive. So we can say that of the universe we see around us, our body, this room, this chat, everything you see is electromagnetic. That's the physical existence. And that's 4% of the universe. This 4% is what our science knows something about. They have theories and speculate about all the other, the 96%, which we call dark energy, dark matter. And yes, some of the theories are probably right and some are not. But just comprehend that we know this much. You are waiting.
Sorry, Jan. I think, are you moving the slides? People were asking if the slides are moving because we don't see the slides moving and our screens?
I shift the slides.
Oh, you shift the slides. I see your slides, but it's still on the first page.
Okay, so, well, I'm moving the slides and it's being shared. So maybe I should unshare and share again.
Yeah, you should want to stop it and then share again. Thank you.
Okay, let's share the screen. Let's do the slide. Share from the beginning. Oh, something happened. It says, sorry about that.
It's still loading. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. We're just sorting out the slides so that everybody can see. Hello, Jan, are you there?
I was unmuted.
Okay, yes.
So I didn't do it, but let's see if we can share the screen again. Can you see it now?
I see your screen, yes.
Okay. So I was here. Can you now see the scientific consensus?
Yes, now we can see it, 4% and 99%. Thank you.
All right, so very good. So the whole point here was that our science has investigated a lot of things and has a lot of theories about many things. But 4% of it is what we can see, touch, feel, and we can use. We use it in computers, we use it in today when we speak together, and everything we know, which is physical, has electromagnetic radiation, which I will explain to you what is. That means 96% of it is what we call dark matter, dark energy, and we have a lot of fancy theories what it is, but we don't have really proof what it is. So I think it's useful to focus on what we know, and that is electromagnetic waves, electromagnetic frequencies, electromagnetic radiations, such as light and such as you seeing me now. Another important fact is that 99% of the molecules of the body are water. So we are, in a way, water machines, or we are made of water and running on light, which is electromagnetic. So let me explain. So I say electromagnetism defines our physical reality. And that's because everything in this reality, including your body, your cells, the DNA, the walls around you, the light you see, the stars you see, the universe, everything vibrates and sends out electromagnetic waves. This is how we can understand reality. And even your emotions are stored in the body as electromagnetic patterns and can be felt by others. There was a smart guy once, Albert Einstein, and he said everything is energy and there is no matter. Well, that can be argued, but for sure, we know that 99.9999 is energy. There is some small portion that might be called matter, but mostly we are energy, informational energy. We have another smart guy called Nikola Tesla, and he is the reason we're talking today, because he invented wireless transmissions and so forth. He said if you want to understand the universe, you need to think of energy, frequency, and vibration. And for me, frequency, vibration, oscillation, rhythm is more or less the same thing. And I think he was pretty right. So I'm going to tell you what is electromagnetism. Electromagnetism is when there is charged particles, energetic particles, that is moving. When this particles is moving through, let's say, a conductor, let's say this is iron. So there is electrons moving through this one, and then it will always generate a magnetic field 90 degrees, as you see up in the upper right corner. So electromagnetism consists of two words, electro and magnetism. That's because whenever charges or electrons are moving, you generate an electric field and you generate a magnetic field, electromagnetic fields. So your heart generates electromagnetic fields, and the light is electromagnetic fields, and everything has these properties, but they are different in some aspects. So one aspect is that some waves, because they move in waves, are slow and calm and very long. And then you look at, for example, radio waves, which can be kilometers long waves. And these waves, they are increasing in different wavelengths, in different parts of the spectrum. We call it the electromagnetic spectrum. So in your body, you have cells, molecules, DNA, organs, bones, muscles, brain, whatever. All these parts of you, they resonate, they can vibrate at different rates. So when we are hit or we have an incoming vibration, which is similar to your vibration, it's like a music instrument. You start vibrating more, and there is energy transfer. We'll talk more about this. We have, as you see, a part of the spectrum we call visual light, and that's in the middle here. And then you have ultraviolet, which is not harmful unless you get too much of it. And then you get into X-rays and gamma rays. And the thing is that the faster the frequency, the higher the energy. And the faster the frequency, the more it can penetrate through your body. That is why very high frequencies can be dangerous for your body, because it can go directly through your cells. It can interrupt your DNA. It can split molecules. And that's what we call ionizing radiation, making ions, charged particles. So we have to be careful about that. And you can also see on the bottom here that different sizes of particles. So you see, if you are in a very high frequency, you can resonate, you can influence virus or bacteria and so forth, even on the atomic level. Let me see. Here is another view of the same thing. And there you see the waves being shorter and shorter. And typically when you're using Healy, you are at the frequencies of 100 to some thousand vibrations per second, which we call hertz. Okay, so the wavelength is a very important informational factor of this energy we send out. Because if we send out energy in a wavelength that is not being able to be received, it doesn't resonate to us. So the expression people use often in America, that this resonates to me, it's because it's possible to receive the information, and your brain and your electromagnetic system of the body is capable of decoding the information in the waves and understand it. We have something called sympathetic resonance, and that is the thing that occurs if you have two tuning forks which are equal in size and proportions. This is just what I'm talking about. If you hit one tuning fork, the other will start to vibrate automatically. So this means that the vibration from one tuning fork is transferred to the other, and that goes also for the information of this vibration, for example, a tone. And we'll see an example of this. Did you see this? Good. So I think it's pretty incredible to understand the fact that some vibration here or there or further away can cause a reaction, an energetic reaction in your body or in your cells or in your DNA because of the sympathetic resonance. This is the principle all developers of frequency-related, pulse electromagnetic field-related therapies use. Because if you're not producing frequencies, vibrations that is in resonance with your body or your cells, you don't have any effect. But this causes a lot of different things. For example, around the Earth, there is lightning, about 2,000 lightnings, ba-boom, 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 every second. And this lightning generates a standing wave, a wave that is long and low frequency. The base is 7.83 hertz, sorry. And this frequency, 7.83 hertz, and the so-called harmonics, which I will explain later, resonates with our internal control system, also for the brain and hormone regulation. So this is not a coincidence. We are born here. We are adjusted to being adjusted to the frequency of Earth. One of them is the Schumann resonance. So this is why when, for example, there is an eruption of energy of the sun, a solar flare, it sends out a lot of energy, a lot of frequencies, and it hits the electromagnetic field of Earth. And that influences this wave called Schumann going around the Earth. And we are connected to this Earth. So that's why many people feel more excited, they have problems sleeping and so forth when there is solar storms or other geomagnetic events. I will explain a little bit more about it. And here you see the brain wave. This is a normal alpha state. And you can see the similarity of these two waves, if you have seen this before. So that means that these two waves can start to synchronize and influence your body. And for those you don't know, the spikes, solar spikes and geomagnetic storms, they can explain a lot of things many people are wondering about. Because people wonder, oh, today I did exactly the same thing as yesterday, but I feel completely different. How come I couldn't sleep last night, but I sleep well this night? How come my heart is racing? Why do I have pains? Why? Well, a natural thing is that we are totally synchronized in resonance with nature. And we cannot help being resonating with the Schumann resonance because our genes, our body is constructed under this electromagnetic environment. So this is one of the explanations why, for example, people think they should always run the same program over a different time. We're talking about Healy or timer. But of course, your environment and how you feel is different when the moon is in phase or it's out of phase, different when there's sunstorms, different when there's other influences of the waves that influence us. So what is light always light? I say this because it's the classical definition of light is that this is a part of the electromagnetic waves, a spectrum that we perceive and can see with our eyes. But we know that electromagnetic radiation is a form of energy that includes radio waves, X-rays, gamma rays, and all electromagnetism, as well as visual light. It doesn't have mass, but it travels in packets of energy. These packets are called quanta. So whenever you heard or hear the complicated word quantum physics and all this, what are we talking about? Quanta means a piece or so much of energy. So it's a packet of so much of energy. And these packets, which are sent out from electromagnetic radiations, are called photons. So photons is what we call also see in visual light. But of course, there are photons in all other parts of the spectrum. So for me, it's more simple to say all is light, because all is photons, all is quantum emissions, packets of energy, and these packets can behave differently. This is the difference. So quantum of energy, we call a photon when it's transferred from electromagnetic waves. And the sun emits a lot of energy and a lot of photons. Some people ask me what's the difference between a pulsed electromagnetic field and electric current. So when you have the Healy and you have connected the bracelets, for example, or another electro microcurrent device, there is a current going through your body. And since it's always electromagnetic, it means that this current going through your body will 90 degrees generate waves, magnetic waves. So if you turn it around and you use a coil, and this coil emits a field and hits your electric wiring in the body, it will generate or induce a current. So it's vice versa. But it has some different effects, but it's two sides of the same story. And here you can see something a little bit, what do we say, sophisticated. It's the sun's and the earth electromagnetic field. We see the earth electromagnetic field and we see the burst from the sun. And actually, sometimes every 7 minutes, these fields connect and it opens a portal which we presumably could travel without time. It's new research, it's very interesting. Of course, we don't want to travel to the sun because we would burn. But we are totally connected with all the planetary systems around us, including the sun. And this is a reason that once I was a young boy, I went to the university, I did study astronomy. And I thought, well, you know, I heard about astrology, which claimed to predict our future based on the constellations of the stars. And I was told in university, it's completely bullshit. There is no scientific evidence for this. And of course, you cannot predict anything from the placement of the stars and the planet and so on. And then I spent 40 years studying all these things. And now I can tell you, well, it's not bullshit. But maybe the way they do it is not, let's say, optimal, and the star charts are maybe not correct. But for sure, all the electromagnetic waves coming in from the stars, from the sun, from the moon, they're going into our Earth field, which again influences our field. So we are totally connected to everything around us, and the illusion of being alone is only an illusion. You cannot be alone. We are connected as we speak. I'm connected to you, Simon, and if I focus on you and I ask myself a question, my intuition will tell me the answer. Not because I'm something special, I'm just human, but I learned to listen to my intuition, to my radio channel, because I'm connected. You are connected, we're all connected. So there's make this short, but I think in future, maybe the definition of medicine will be called light medicine, because all cells sends out light or electromagnetic waves. And when the light is correct, the charge is correct, there's a balance is correct, all the cells can talk to each other, and the environment around the cells normalize. And this is where we get into the term epigenetic. It means above the gene. So it means that if you make an environment which is natural, harmonized, balanced, in sync with the surroundings, the DNA will express itself to its best. You will be at your maximum potential. This is my philosophy. I don't think we're going to replace the body, or some will, but I don't want it. I don't want to replace my nature with the machines or hardware or become some sort of a cyborg. What I want to do is to give my body, my mind, my soul, my emotions, the optimal conditions to work. And this is epigenetics. And we know from modern research that I have a personal experience. I'll just share it with you. There was 10 years ago, I was in a bad condition and I was on holiday. And my girlfriend, she was going to have a birthday. and we want to celebrate. And I wake up in the morning and I feel my body was not good. It was really not good. And there was my blood pressure was incorrect. I was out of balance, totally out of balance. And in the middle of the day, I understood that I had to go to hospital because I couldn't risk dying on her birthday. It was this bad. And the next day I came back, I was okay, but I was scared. I was scared of the experience of feeling that I might die any second. And my body was cold. I had tingling in the feet. I had dizziness. I could not do anything. Then my girlfriend, she told me a joke. And I couldn't stop helping to laugh. And I laughed for 10 seconds. In 10 seconds, my whole body changed completely. My breath normalized, my blood pressure normalized, my pulse normalized. I was no more dizzy. I could feel my legs. Everything was okay. That's epigenetic on very high level. So the body is capable of changing phases very easily. And we can do that through light medicine. So I was talking about that a lot of people, they are interested in people's aura. And some people can see it, some people cannot. And actually, if you put somebody naked in a completely dark room, many of us can actually see a small glow around the body. This is because we all glow. And the picture to the upper left on my screen is actually naked people dancing in a totally dark room with an infrared camera. And then you can see they all emit light. So we are light beings. And everything else in nature is light beings. Everything else emits lights, electromagnetic waves. And now they think our consciousness is fields of light. This is consciousness. And at least we know for sure from the research of Albert Fritz Popp that termed the word biophotons, that all cells, they emit light. And this light tells us something about the state of the cell and the health of the cell and the health of the body. So your light can tell us what is your condition. So you see this picture, and it maybe it's an illustration, it's not a picture, but you see that we have a big electromagnetic field, and this field is having vibrations, and everything going on inside you is modulated. Let me explain modulation first, because why use a word you don't understand? So modulation, when you listen to the radio, let's say you listen to radio channel FM 102.9 megahertz, million vibrations per second. So you turn on the radio and you listen to this channel. Do you listen to 112 megahertz per second? No. You listen to the voices and the music embedded in the wave. So let's think of a wave like this. But when you modulate it, when you input something more, these nice waves get small modulations. And that is the information we take out and play back so we can hear it. The same thing is with us. This is why intuition exists. This is why in my clinic, most of the time when I meet a client, I take their hand, I shake their hand, and I know what to do. I know what's the problem. But I cannot say it because it sounds too magical. So I measure them, I do all the functional diagnostics, and then we treat them. But you send out the field with your emotions. And when you go into a room, you can you can automatically sense what's something in this room. If there's somebody very hostile in this room, if there's a good feeling in this room, everything you don't need to see, but you feel it. This is because the electromagnetic fields from everybody contains this information, and you have a system receiving it because you are just the same way. So this is a little bit what I explained to you a little bit earlier, but I like to use the word informational energy because from my experience, there is no energy that does not include information. including frequencies or modulations or more. And this information is shared. And there you see the influence from around us. And now we have a new influence where you see satellites, the Wi-Fi towers, wireless, and so forth. This is also information. How does the body react to it? Well, this is this is a different theme, but the body takes in the information and start to resonate with it. And if you send a wave from a mobile phone or a Wi-Fi router or a satellite, it's not meant to be a therapy. It's not meant to help your body, so it doesn't. It causes confusion, it causes oxidative stress, and so forth. And there you see, we are influenced by a lot of things, natural things from nature, space weather, and of course, from all the electronics and all the waves that we are bombarded with. Interesting thing is that when people meet, it takes 30 or 40 milliseconds, millionth of a second, that your brain and my brain start to synchronize. So the brain, they start to mimic each other so we can understand each other. And if you learn to use your intuition, you will automatically know what the other person wants and thinks and feels, because you're already having the information. And we see here up on the left, we see a picture of the heart and the brain. And there's a small story about this. When there is research showing that the heart detects changes in the environment of many kinds of danger or emotions, and then informs the brain. So actually the heart is the boss. It's telling the brain what to do. And in China, they know about this 3 brains for centuries. So we call it upper dantian, medium dantian, lower dantian. So there were 3 brains, because in your stomach, you have more neurons than you have in your head brain. So actually, to think of us functioning from here and the rest is a machine is not true. Everything is involved, and the 3 main centers are the brain, the heart, and the sacral area. So you see, you are spreading out a lot of information everywhere, and there's coming a lot of information everywhere. So that's why everything is connected, at least on electromagnetic level. And this is the level we know about. There you see a very primitive machine, a very primitive receiver and sender. So compared to your nature, this is extremely primitive technology. So where did they think about wireless transmission? Yes, because we do it. So everything we see in technology is an attempt to do something we already do in nature. As you see, they send out also a lot of energy and also waves and information, which can be a problem. But compared to our technology, our capabilities, it's primitive. Okay, so this was not expected. We're going to talk about your magic powers. I will tell you what I think about magic. Magic is when you know something. And if you know something for sure, it does happen. It is like that. That is your reality. So one example is, do you love your children? Do you love your mother or father? Most of us will say, yes, I know it. Can you prove it? Do we have a study, double randomized study? No, I know it. So this connection is extremely strong, and you can even feel your children having problems if they're not at home. This is because we're totally connected and we know it. But I'd like you now to make an experiment with me. So I'll teach you how to be intuitive. It's very simple. First, you must understand that intuition has nothing to do with the brain. It has nothing to do with your emotions. It is just your capability of receiving information and decoding it. So let's say you should trust your heart, trust your feeling. So the experiment today, I would like you to do, is to write down a question to me. which is a yes/no question, not a complicated answer, a yes/no question. So everybody, please write down a question, one question. Let's see how many we can answer. And it should be a yes/no question. And after you have written down the question, I want you to ask yourself this way. Is the correct answer yes to this question? And whatever turns up in your head, write it down. Because if you think about it, you won't get it right. It's a 50% chance, okay, but you won't get it right. If you feel emotional about it, you don't get it right. So the way to be magical is simply to say, give me a yes or give me a no. And then your brain's going to say yes or no first, and you just write it down. Later, we check it out and see if you're right. If you are capable of not using your brain or emotions, you will be right. Okay, so we're moving into a little bit next level, talking a little bit about the meaning of frequency, rhythm, and music. So, as I told you, everything in nature is controlled and synchronized by rhythms and frequency. And this we can prove if we're in a hospital. We take MRI, magnetic resonance, we do X-ray, we do ECG for the brain, EKG, which is for the heart. So we measure all the electric properties of the body, but they forget about the electric and they pretend it's not electric, but that's a different story. But anyway, so our body is a big electric machine and it needs synchronization. And the light and the sunlight synchronize your brain. And this synchronization goes down your body. So that's, for example, inside your cell, you have something called ATPase. It's a pump, it's a motor going around in very high speeds, and it's supposed to stop and start at the correct timing. And so are a lot of processes in the body. We need to do it correctly. You cannot go to the toilet before you eat the food. You need the food first, and then you go to the toilet, right? It's like this with all the cells, with every function in the body. So the body has a major clock up here. So the reason I mention this is because you need sunlight. You need to go out in nature. In the middle of the day, you need to take a break and get full spectrum sunlight to help you synchronize all the processes in the body. If you don't get sunlight, if you don't have proper light, your body will auto sync. You'll have problem sleeping, problem with the hormone regulation, and so forth. And now it's another interesting thing that people think they didn't think about. It's I feel this emotion, I feel warm, I feel loving, I'm sad, I'm angry, all these emotions. Are they out there? Is there some esoteric about it? Maybe, but not really, because it's electromagnetic. So emotions, they tend to locate themselves in different areas of the body in electromagnetic patterns. And here you see that example where you feel the emotions. So when you are afraid, you feel it up here. When you're happy, you feel it all over your body. When you're in love, you're quite happy. But you have more energy in the heart, in the sexual area or the sacral chakras. So there's a difference between love and happiness, but it looks quite similar. This I learned from a very good doctor and therapist, Dr. Jerry Tent. And he managed to discover the areas of the body where different emotions are stored. So, example, if you have a lot of fear and anxiety, it will influence your kidneys or the sacral area, which includes the bladder, sexual organs, and so on. Joy is something you feel in the heart. Grief is often in the neck and the lungs. So if you have a lung problem, you probably have a problem with the emotion grief, because emotions are always involved, and we can treat and understand what's going on in the body by measuring these areas. And if this area is low in the back, in the between your shoulder blades, that influences the heart, but it's probably also a reason, probably also influence of your emotion. So if your body is out of balance, your emotions are out of balance, and vice versa. This is the guy. And this book I can really recommend, Healing is Voltage. And he taught me for the first time the principle that the electric charge, like in a battery has a charge. So if you have a small battery, let's say, and you have the plus and the minus, between it's a membrane, so the negative charge cannot hit the plus, because you know, plus and minus always want to join forces. It's magnetic, right? So if you have a battery, plus and minus, and there's a membrane between, these two cannot join forces. Then you put a wire and the electrons start to move. The same thing happens in the cell membrane. So the cell membranes are like round, and we have a charge on the inside and outside. And without this charge, it cannot get in nutrition, cannot take in water, cannot take in oxygen, hydrogen, cannot take out the waste, and it cannot produce or actually recycle energy in ATP, in the mitochondria, the cellular kernel of the cell. So the most important indicator, or let's say the most, let me see how I put it. The best indicator to understand your health and the function of the body is if you can understand what is the charge of the battery. And you can imagine very simply, if you don't have charge in your mobile phones, you won't call anywhere. And if there is a low charge in your cells, they can't communicate it to the body. This happens also with cancer. So this is one of the reasons why the immune system have problem of dealing with cancers, because the cancer cells have a very low electric charge and can therefore not, and therefore doesn't communicate normally, because you need charge, you need energy to communicate. Okay, so this is, how do you say in English, ballpark figures. But it's relevant, and that's more or less correct, and I will show you more details. So we always want to do something to the environment or our cells so the cells can have a normal charge. And one of those things we can do is, of course, use frequency and PEMF and light therapies and so forth. Another thing is, of course, to have good water, which can carry this charge. And another thing is you have to have the minerals, because the minerals will split in water and are called ions, charged particles. I will show you more about this. So here up in the left corner, you see electrode on the inside and the outside of the cell membrane. So you see on the inside the cells have the positive charge and outside the plus charge, almost like a battery, or it's like a battery. And then you see on the left bottom, you see something called volt-gated natrium channels, volt-regulated channels. Well, the whole thing is that the regulation of what is going in and out of the cell is regulated by electric charge. So that's the overall system. That's behind everything else. Biochemistry, hormones, everything comes after this. First, you need the electric charge and electric balance to work. And then you can see that different cells have different charge. And this also defines how they can be a cell. And here comes something that explains a lot of things if you understand it. And there you see, for example, that cells with very low charge, they are able to divide. So on the good side, this is very good when you're going to have a baby, because you need the cells to divide and to make more. And when the cells have divided enough, the body increases the voltage, increases the charge of the cell, so it stays permanent, like a neuron cell, a muscle cell, or fibroblast, stomach cell, etc. If the body is not capable of keeping normal charge in the cell function is disrupted. For example, a cell which has very low electric charge cannot get enough oxygen. If it doesn't get enough oxygen over time, the cell will die, or it has to do something else to change the metabolism, to change the way it generates energy. Then it starts to ferment like wine. And that's called cancer. So if you can keep the cells healthy with correct charge, you cannot have cancer. And also there's a lot of other things you cannot have. So let's see what happens if you have the correct charge. If you have the correct charge, the correct energy in the cell, the pH balance will be correct, because pH means potential hydrogen. And that's just electric term for what is the charge of water, the water in your body. Remember, 99% of the molecules are water. So if the electric charge is correct in the cell, the charge in the water must be correct. If the electric charge is correct, you must have a correct mineral balance with magnesium, etc. And if the charge is correct, it means you have water. And it means you can get rid of toxins. And it means you have enough potential in the blood cells so they don't clump. Because if the red blood cells clump, they don't transport oxygen very well to the tissue. If they have setup potential, which is for the blood cells, they push from each other because they have the chain charge on the outside, and they push, and they can transport oxygen much better. And you have a natural energy production of the cell working like it should. If you have enough oxygen when you produce, when you have the ATP cycle, you produce 36 energy molecules. If you don't, you produce 2. So it's 16 times more energy. And the cells are capable of sending signals, receiving signals, and communicating and growing in the normal fashion. So that's a synergy. So that's why I always say that we should know the voltage of the cell. And then we have thieves. This is the reasons people have health issues. If you have a scar, let's say I have a scar here, a big scar. The electric current, which is controlling the hand and needs to repair if there's a damage, will hit the scar and move to the side because the scar is blocking the current and maybe go this way. So it would be normal for me to have an issue here because the scar is blocking the electric current, the electric flow. And these scars, you can have, a lot of women have had operations to take out the babies. So after this, they have problems with the kidneys or digestive system or liver function. And that's because you kind of cut off, or you may make a block of the circulation of the electric charge for these organs, which often is down to the legs for the, also, scars can be emotional scars. So if you have a strong, bad trauma, and it's related to, let's say sexual abuse, this will very often generate locked pattern in the kidney bladder area. So we have to resolve this, and that's also possible via electromagnetic therapy and conscious work. And then one very important thing that most people are not aware of is that if you have an infection in the jaw, like a root canal channel, this is an infection and will always be, no matter what the doctor says, because if you cut off the root blood supply and you cut off the nerve endings, what's inside the tooth will not have oxygen or energy, and it will rot, and it make very bad bacteria. And this alone can be enough to generate serious disease. Dr. Jerry Tennant, which I told you about, he discovered that out of 100 patients, 150 patients, women with the breast cancer, he discovered that 96% of them, all of them had an issue in the jaw, very often a root canal. And he thought, well, I must be crazy. So I have to check it with an oncologist, cancer specialist. And he asked them to control the next 100 patients. And he came back and told me, it's incredible. I got 97% hit. So 97% of the women he investigated with breast cancer had infection or similar in the jaw on the same side as the breast. And one last thing about this, so you understand the importance of it for your health and your family. I had a woman coming to me for a year ago in my clinic. I measured her, functional evaluated her, and found out that there was something with electric problem with the teeth. And I asked her, do you have a root canal? And I said, yeah. She said, I have 2. I said, you got to remove it, get rid of it, come back when you've done it. And 3 months went, and she came back. I forgot to tell you, she could not sleep properly. She had chronic pain in the shoulder, digestive issues. 3 months later, she come back and just to give me a hug. And I said, why? You know, so, well, 3 days after I took out the root canal, my pain in the arm lost. Next week, I started sleeping well, and now my stomach is good. She came back 6 months later to say, thank you for saving me. And what did I do? I treated her 1 time, I gave her some supplements, and she removed the root canal. So that's very important. Also, what can influence your energy production if you have a stuck spine? You cannot move and it's stuck. You should do more exercise, get outside, do yoga, whatever, and get help to release this. Because there is a cranial sacral pump energy, water going up and down, and your head is moving in and out and circulating your body. And when there is movement of charged particles like ions in the water, it makes energy. So you have to loosen up this to help you produce energy. This is the key, electric potential for the cells. And of course, you need building blocks, mineral, amino acids, fatty acids, so proper food. If you drink too little water, nothing works. If you drink dirty or dead water, it works, but it works less good, because imagine if you take water from the tap. It has normally chlorine and other chemicals in it. So they clean it for bacteria. That means the water has a positive charge. That means it's an oxidant. It's a stealer. It wants to take energy to become normal again. And you drink it, and you have to give the water energy. So that's not good water. So you should have purified water, and if possible, with hydrogen gas, because hydrogen gas is a very strong donor. It can give off a lot of electrons, so help your energy system. Air pollution, of course, is a big problem for people in cities, but you can buy small ion generators and air filters to put out negative ions. For example, some people, and many of you, they feel tired when it's raining outside, when it's low pressure. When it's low pressure, the clouds come down and they have, what is the charge? Positive charge. So that's why you feel it. So when it's high pressure and the sun is out, you feel more energized because there is more negative charge in the air. And stress. Of course, stress is maybe number 1 for most of us. And stress is the same, doesn't matter where it comes from. If you cut off your arm and you have pain, that's stress. If you have emotional stress because you are hurt, wounded, or you're afraid, that's stress. If you have too much work, you're stressed. It doesn't matter what is the cause. For the body, it's the same thing. It means the digestive system will stop. Your kidney systems will not detox. Your liver will not detox. And if you don't detox, you don't get away with the plus, with the oxidants, stealing your energy. And that's why one of the reasons the program in Deep Cycle, Kidney Oil, is a must for everybody. Because everybody, more or less, has too much stress in their life. And then you have to support the organs which are getting trouble because of this. So if you can, the most simple way to remove stress or to decrease stress is, they knew it for 10,000 years in the yoga tradition. It's deep breathing through the nose, holding it, breathing out. Do it 10 times, lay down, feel how you feel. If you were stressed before, I promise you, this breathing will tell your body everything's okay. So if you're having a panic attack or something, do the breathing, and it cannot last more than 20 minutes. So that's a way to remove stress. Toxins, of course, all types. We try to avoid toxins. That means ultra-processed food, food that comes from, let's say, cattle that eat that eat, animals that eat junk food are not good with hormones and medicines and so forth. So, and that goes for plants too. So, and of course, we have the man-made radiation. That's wireless and all that. If you have it all the time, if you have a wireless router at home, most people have it. There are ways to protect yourself. You can use some things to amplify and make a beneficial field. But the most simple thing you can do is to turn it off. And especially when you sleep at night, you buy yourself a timer, maybe it costs you $10, and you put it in the outlet for the Wi-Fi router, so it turns off when you sleep. So you don't bombard yourself with unnecessary, stressful, oxidative generating frequencies. So when I move my muscles, I squeeze crystals. We call them collagen tissue. It's kind of liquid crystals. And these liquid crystals are so-called piezoelectric. Very fancy word, but when you squeeze it, it makes energy. This is the same reason when you do acupuncture and you put the needle into acupuncture point and turn it around, you squeeze these crystals and make a small current. And some people can feel the current going up like this. I felt it many times. So to produce energy for a body, you need to move your muscles. You cannot sit still all day like we do now. You have to take time. If you sit still more than 40 minutes, it starts to influence your blood pressure, your hormones, etc. So more than every once an hour, you have to stand up, do something, breathe, and so on. And of course, the lack of contact with nature. So when you go out in the summer, and if you noticed, most people are born 9 months away from the summer period. Why is that? Yes, because when we're outside, we're getting negative ions, we're getting fresh air, oxygenized air, we're getting the sunlight and all the beneficial frequencies, and we're barefoot in contact with the ground, and often we go in the water. So this is natural therapy at its best, and it makes us all feel better. So my best shape is always in Norway, because we have a short summer. It's July, September. That's when I feel the best. And that's normally when the people in this period, not before or a little after, make children, because we're full of energy. And so don't forget to use nature. Okay, so we're soon finished with this first part. So it's a good idea to remember the key points. So the electric potential, that means the charge, is needed to build and repair cells, because every second, thousands of cells dies and thousands of cells are made in your body. If you have the right energy and the right building blocks, you make them. So it means your organs are healthy. And when the voltage is correct, your cells can communicate, we can communicate, and the system works. When the cellular voltage is correct, you're healthy, if all of them are healthy. So you can say, oh, I have a good voltage, but I have a pain in the shoulder. I can tell you, if you have pain in the shoulder, the voltage is low there. For sure, we can measure it. I measured it 1,000 times. So thank you for this first part.
Thank you very much, Jan. Thank you. Take a sip of water. You have really summarized the topics of electromagnetism and frequency for us. Not only that, but you also provided us with practical tips on how to support ourselves and some practical tips to calm our stress. Thank you so much. And our second part of today's webinar, everybody's waiting for, is take a deep dive into the deep cycle harmonics programs. And we invite Jan to come back and share with us your secrets. You'll be highlighting some major difference between the original deep cycle and the deep cycle harmonics programs. What is the difference?
Okay.